Just 2 weeks ago, we were shocked to find out that Tucker Carlson over at Fox News had a avowed vicious racist as his head writer. Not that it existed, but that we found out and that he actually got fired. I'm surprised he didn't get promoted to his own show. And the thing is that makes it so unsurprising is that Tucker Carlson's show has been parroting white nationalist and white supremacist talking points for some time. And we are very lucky now to be joined on the show by an individual who's been profiling this, especially recently on Business Insider columnist Manny Fidel. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. You've been doing some great work about how Fox has become sort of the home of this sort of thing. Tell me a little bit about what you've turned up in watching Fox, analyzing Tucker Carlson and other shows.
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest thing that has come up in watching these shows is this kind of rhetoric that is based around something called the Great Replacement, which is the Great Replacement is a white supremacist conspiracy theory, for lack of a better term, that describes communities of color maliciously trying to replace white communities in the United States. And you see, that conspiracy theory is, parroted much more bluntly online and much more directly, but on shows like Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham, they kind of do it in like a lighter way. So it's not so easily tied to the conspiracy theory. And they'll do things like say, Tucker Carlson will say that this town used to be like this percentage white and now it's dwindling. And Laura Ingraham says things like, America is not what it used to be. So these are the kind of ways that Fox News will put that conspiracy theory onto their airwaves in front of millions of viewers.
And so like when Bill O'Reilly says that traditional America is going away, do you see that as largely following this sort of narrative?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the way these things are being said on like Stormfront or like other online forums that are just much more explicitly racist, they say the exact same things.
And so that gap that you've identified where it's far more explicit on some of these websites like Stormfront or 4chan or something like that. And then they have versions of alluding to it on Ingram and Tucker Carlson. Is that changing over the years? I mean, was Fox talking about this sort of thing, say 5 or 10 years ago in the way that they are now?
That's a great question. I don't think so. I think what's happening is obviously with the election of Donald Trump, who likes to kind of stoke those flames of white supremacy. That's where like this whole phenomenon is starting to get stronger and stronger. But the reason it's much more dangerous now is because the ways that these hosts on Fox News say these things, they don't come off as immediately racist. Well, they do for some of us, but for a lot of their viewers, they probably don't think much of it in terms of racism. So it's something that's it's something that spreads without its real intent being known.
And sort of to that point, I alluded in the intro to the fact that Tucker Carlson had to fire his head writer who had been, name a racist thing. He was saying it online. What did you think when that story broke? And then the way that it was resolved and sort of moved past fairly quickly, was that what you expected, or do you think that there would be more consequences?
That my reaction was kind of two-pronged, which is when first the news broke. It's always surprising hearing these things, but to some degree, it was one of the least surprising revelations they could have made, because this is a writer on the show who has said racist things in the past, and it's a show that constantly parrots this great replacement conspiracy. So it wasn't that surprising, but what was a little surprising for me was that the show's reaction, like from a production standpoint, was this like pseudo apology. But like anytime you're apologizing for something, and it's not like a full on apology, he basically said sorry, and then like the but portion of that was just shocking to me. Was I couldn't understand how this person who's explicitly racist was revealed to be a writer for you, and you didn't just fully disavow it.
And I know. So you've talked about the fact that they're generally pretty careful. They try to cover their tracks, make it a little bit more vague. It's washed slightly from the forums to prime time. But then I think about things like Tucker Carlson talking about the white genocide against farmers in South Africa, or him bringing on guests who like promote the Camp of Saints, possibly the most racist book ever written. Are those like trial balloons? Is he seeing what he can get away with? Is it a preview of the future? Is this gonna become more explicit in the future?
Yeah, so I mean, you're describing what is essentially like the dog whistle is now just like a full air horn. I think you're spot on. It's like, here, let me describe this story that's attracting a lot of people, specific people, and see how it plays over. And so, like some of us in the media calling those kind of stories out, or else they'll snowball into one day a full-on great replacement segment on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, probably Lou Dobbs as well.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.